Hi class. In this lecture we're going to do an introduction to equations. Specifically what we're going to be working towards in this lecture is how you solve some pretty simple linear equations. Okay, so first thing we're going to do is we're going to determine whether a given number is a solution to an equation. Then we're going to solve equations of the form x plus a is equal to b, where a and b are just constants. And then we're going to solve equations of the form ax is equal to b. Okay, so first determine whether a given number is a solution of an equation. So an equation expresses the equality of two mathematical expressions. So the expression can either be numerical or a variable expression. So what a solution of an equation is a number that when substituted for the variable results in a true equation. So for example, 5 is the solution of the equation x plus 8 is equal to 13. Because you plug 5 in for x, 5 plus 8 is 13. 7 obviously is not a solution to that because 7 plus 8 gets you 15 and 15 is not equal to 13. So a solution solves it, makes the two sides of the equality sign the same thing. Alright, so let's try this problem. Is negative 3 a solution to the equation 4x plus 16 is equal to x squared minus 5? Well, all you're going to do is you're going to take the negative 3 and you're going to plug it in for the variable. Okay, so 4 times negative 3 is negative 12. Negative 12 plus 16 is 4. Over here, negative 3 squared is 9. 9 minus 5 is 4. So the results are the same. So yes, negative 3 is a solution of this equation here. All right, so that's what it means to be a solution. It's also how you check solutions too. Just take your solution that you get by solving, plug it in, and see if it checks out. Gives you the same thing on each side of the equality sign. All right, so let's talk about how you solve equations of the form a plus x is equal to b. All right, to solve an equation means to find a solution of that equation. So the simplest equation to solve is an equation of the form variable is equal to a constant because the solution is a constant. So for these harder ones here where it's x plus a now, okay, we're going to use the additive property of equations. So the same number or variable term can be added to each side of an equation without changing the solutions of the equation. All right, so solving an equation, the goal is to rewrite the given equation in the form variable is equal to a constant. So what I want to do is get something like x is equal to a number, and then it's solved. So the addition property of equations can be used to rewrite the equation in this form. So the addition property of equations is used to remove a term from one side of the equation by adding the opposite of the term to each side of the equation. So let's solve and check this one here. So I have y minus 6 is equal to 9. So what I want to do here is I want to get, the goal here is to write the equation in the form variable is equal to some number, a constant. So I want to get the y by itself. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to undo the minus 6 by adding 6 to each side of the equation. So I'm going to have y minus 6 plus 6. The reason we do that is the minus 6 plus 6 goes away. They cancel each other out. So whatever I do, this is important, whatever I do to one side of the equation to maintain equality, I have to do to the other side of the equation as well. So if I add 6 to the left-hand side, I have to add 6 to the right-hand side. So then 9 plus 6 gets me 15. Obviously, y plus 0 is just y. And we see here that y is equal to 15. And that's our answer. I just undo subtraction by adding 6 to each side here. So you can check this. When you check this and plug this into the equation, you solve it. 15 minus 6 does get me a 9, and 9 equals 9. So yes, 15 is the solution here. All right, so because subtraction is defined in terms of addition, okay, the addition property of equation makes it possible to subtract the same number from each side of an equation without changing the solution. So just how you can add something to one side of the equation, you can also subtract something from one side, as long as you do it to both sides. All right, so let's look at this one. 1/2 is equal to y plus 2/3. So I have this plus 2/3 here. So what I want to do is I want to get rid of it. So I'm going to undo addition by subtracting it. So this plus 2/3 minus 2/3 goes away. They cancel each other out. Then you just have 1/2 minus 2/3. You just find the least common denominator is 6. So this is 3/6 minus 4/6 gets me 1/6. So our solution here is minus 1/6. So if you have y or x plus some number, just subtract it from each side. That's what we're doing here. All right, so note from the solution in the previous example that an equation can be written in the form Constant is equal to variable. So whether the equation is written in the form variable is equal to constant or in the form constant or equal to variable, it doesn't matter. The solution is still the constant. Okay, so here in this previous one, let me go back. I had y is equal to 15. And this one here I have minus 1, 6 is equal to y. It looks like they're backwards. It doesn't matter. So the solution is still that constant. All right, so let's try this one. Let's solve equations of the form a times x is equal to b. Okay, so each side of an equation can be multiplied by the same non-zero number without changing the solutions. So this property can be used when solving equations. So note the effect of multiplying each side of the equation if I have 2x is equal to 6 by the reciprocal of the coefficient. So what I'm doing here is I'm going to multiply, to get rid of this 2, I'm going to multiply by its reciprocal. Okay, so 1/2 times 2 cancels out, or it actually equals 1. And you just get x is equal to 1/2 times 6, which is the same thing as 6 divided by 2, which would get you 3. All right, so after each side of the equation is simplified, the equation is in the variable form. Like I said here, the 1x is equal to 3, or x is equal to 3. And that's what we're looking for, that variable by itself. All right, so solving an equation, the goal is to rewrite the given equation in the form variable is equal to the constant. So the multiplication property of equations can be used to rewrite an equation of this form. So the multiplication property of equations is used to write the variable term with a coefficient of 1 by multiplying each side by the reciprocal of the coefficient. If it helps, let me go back. Really what you're doing here is you're dividing both sides by whatever the coefficient here is. So sometimes it helps to see that. If I divide this by 2, the 2's cancel. 6 divided by 2 gets me 3. If it helps to see that. So I'm undoing multiplication with division here. All right, let's try this one though. It's a little bit harder. Solve 3x divided by 4 is equal to -9. Well, what I'm seeing here, okay, this 3/4, I can break it off and write it as 3/4 times x. Now to get rid of this constant in front, what I'm going to do is I'm going to multiply by the reciprocal. Well, the reciprocal of this is 4/3. Whatever I do to one side of the equation, I have to multiply this -9 by the same thing. So this, the 4's cancel, the 3's cancel, you're just left with 1x. 4 times -9 is -36. And then -36 divided by 3, that's how we get this -12 here. All right, so this is our solution right here. All right, so because division is defined in terms of multiplication, the multiplication of property of equations makes it possible to divide each side of an equation by the same number without changing the solution of the equation, like I was saying previously. So when using the multiplication property of equations to solve an equation, multiply each side of an equation by the reciprocal of the coefficient when the coefficient is a fraction, like we did in the previous example. Or if it's just something like 2x is equal to 6, just divide by 2. Okay? All right, so divide each side of the equation by a coefficient when the coefficient is just an integer or a decimal. All right, class.